I was carrying our child, but they were carrying a secret. The room was quiet except for the soft whoosh of the machine and the rhythmic sound of a heartbeat. Our baby. I stared at the monitor in disbelief, blinking away tears as the nurse smiled and handed me the ultrasound photo. "This is the moment you'll always remember," she said kindly. But I didn't know that just minutes later, I'd hear something that would make this the day I could never forget for a very different reason. After the scan, I stepped into the waiting room. But Noah wasn't there. No text. No missed call. Nothing. That was unlike him. He was always early, always hovering, always overprotective, especially since the pregnancy. I called once. Then twice. Voicemail. I stepped outside into the parking lot, stomach fluttering, not from the baby, but from something else. And then I saw it. His car was parked near the cafe across the street. Through the large window, I saw him. Sitting with someone. My heart stopped when I recognized the long auburn hair and green scarf. Emma. My best friend. I didn't confront them right away. I stood behind the cafe wall, close enough to hear fragments of their conversation through the slightly open window. "She doesn't know yet," Noah whispered. Emma looked pale. "You have to tell her soon, Noah. She's going to find out." "Not until after the baby's born," he said. "It's too late now anyway." My knees went weak. I had to grip the edge of the window ledge to keep from collapsing. I didn't know what it was, but I knew one thing. They were hiding something. That night, Noah came home with roses and a distracted smile. I watched him lie, effortlessly, asking about the baby, acting thrilled. I pretended to. But inside, something had died. Emma stopped replying to my texts altogether. That told me enough. Guilt had silenced her. But I needed more than suspicion. I needed proof. Emma and I used to share everything: secrets, tears, late-night snacks, even the same blanket during endless movie marathons. Back in college, we had this quirky tradition. We'd exchange journals every few weeks. We said it kept us honest, raw, accountable. It was our own sacred ritual: no filters, no lies, just ink and truth. That's how well I knew her. So when she started pulling away, canceling lunches, responding to my texts with short, awkward replies, I knew something wasn't right. The silence between us wasn't just space. It was suffocating. And I had to know why. So I paid her a visit. "Hey," I smiled at the door, pretending like my heart wasn't thudding in my chest. "Just checking in. You've been kind of quiet lately." She hesitated before letting me in, her smile tight, like it had been stitched on. Inside, the tension was thick, like we were two strangers rehearsing old lines from a forgotten friendship. She offered me tea, her hands shaking slightly as she poured. I pretended not to notice. We chatted, or tried to, about work, about the baby, about anything but the truth hanging between us like a storm cloud. Then I excused myself to the bathroom. But I didn't go there. Instead, I quietly turned down the hallway and slipped into her bedroom. The air inside was still familiar. On the nightstand, right where it always had been, lay her journal, the same leather-bound one she'd carried for years, frayed at the edges from overuse. My fingers trembled as I picked it up, flipping through the pages. And then I found it. "I can't believe I let this happen. Noah said it would be just one night. Now I have to live with it, and she's carrying his baby. I hate myself." The words hit like a slap. My breath caught in my throat. The room tilted. I had to grip the edge of the dresser to steady myself. One night. My best friend. My husband. My unborn child. Everything I believed about my life cracked wide open in that moment. But what gutted me wasn't just the betrayal. It was the cold realization that it wasn't an accident. It wasn't a drunken mistake or a moment of weakness. It was planned, discussed, hidden, calculated. And the two people I trusted most had conspired in silence, while I carried the weight of their secret under my heart. In the days that followed, I became an actress. I smiled like nothing had changed. I laughed at Noah's tired jokes, let him kiss my forehead, and even guided his hand to my belly when the baby kicked, as if I wasn't dying inside every time I looked at him. Every "I love you" felt like acid in my mouth. But I played along because the truth needed time. And I needed evidence. Because even after reading Emma's confession in her journal, something still didn't add up. The dates didn't make sense. The timelines blurred. I remembered the night Emma wrote about, the same week Noah had been out of town on a corporate retreat. It didn't match my cycle. My conception date, it didn't line up with him. That's when it hit me, a thought so wild, so impossible, I nearly dismissed it. But once it rooted itself in my mind, it wouldn't let go. There had been one night. A night I'd buried deep in my memory. 3 months ago, during a medical conference in Chicago. I'd gone with Dr. Liam Grayson, a close colleague and friend. We were both exhausted after a long day of panels and speeches. We'd shared dinner, wine, and too much laughter. I remembered fragments, his hand brushing mine, the hotel key card, the warmth of his breath on my skin, and then nothing but guilt and silence the next morning. I had locked it away, convincing myself it was just drunken regret. But what if it was more than that? The idea haunted me. So I did what I had to do. I ordered a non-invasive prenatal paternity test. It took days to arrive, and even longer to send off the samples. I didn't tell Noah. I told no one. I waited. Silently. Numbly. Counting every hour, every kick from inside me as the days passed like molasses. And then the email came. I clicked it alone, sitting on the floor of the nursery in progress, surrounded by half-assembled furniture and pastel paint swatches. My hands trembled as I opened the PDF. Probability of paternity, 0%. Conclusion: Noah Bennett is not the biological father. The room spun. My breath caught in my throat. In that moment, it wasn't just my world that crumbled. It was my identity, my marriage, my illusion of safety, my sense of control. Noah wasn't the father. Which meant everything I thought I knew about this pregnancy was a lie. The mind has a cruel way of protecting itself. It tucks things away, hides what hurts, disguises memories as dreams. But now, with the DNA results burned into my brain, I couldn't hide from the truth anymore. The night I tried to forget had come flooding back with brutal clarity. It had been early spring when Dr. Liam Grayson and I flew to Chicago for the National Health Tech Conference. He was my mentor-turned-friend, brilliant, composed, always respectful. We'd worked on a neonatal monitoring prototype for months, and when it was finally approved for national trial, we were invited to present. That night, after our talk, we celebrated with a quiet dinner in a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. There was wine. Too much of it. We were exhausted and proud, glowing from applause, soft compliments, and the giddy relief of having made it through. The wind on the terrace had picked up, and Liam had taken off his jacket and wrapped it over my shoulders like instinct. I remember laughing. I remember leaning into him. But more than anything, I remember his eyes, the way they softened when he looked at me. It wasn't professional. It wasn't friendly. It was full of something unspoken. Something old. Something I'd tried to ignore for years. And when the waiter brought the check, Liam hesitated. "Let me walk you back," he offered. We took the elevator to the hotel lobby, then stood in silence near the glowing aquarium wall in the lounge. I remember the ache in my feet, the hum of city lights outside, and then his voice, low, careful. "You know, I always wondered what would have happened if I told you the truth back then." I turned. "What truth?" "That I was in love with you the moment we met. That I didn't just hire you for your resume. That I watched you walk away every day like you were already someone else's." I should have stopped him. I should have reminded him I was married. But I didn't. I was tired. I was lonely. I was human. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted to feel wanted again, by someone who saw me, not just the version of me that folded laundry and pretended to sleep through arguments with Noah. Then came the kiss. Soft. Hesitant. Familiar in a way that made me ache. And after that, a blur. Hands. Heat. A hotel keycard. His breath in my ear. A sense of urgency that felt too deep to name. I woke up the next morning in his bed, fully clothed, the sunlight slicing across my face. Liam was already gone, a handwritten note beside me. "You'll always matter to me. No regrets. Just truth." But I had regretted it. I locked it in a mental box and never opened it again until now. The test had confirmed what I didn't want to believe. This child wasn't Noah's. It was Liam's. And suddenly, I wasn't just carrying a baby. I was carrying a consequence. A truth that had its own heartbeat. I had imagined this moment 100 different ways. Sometimes I screamed. Sometimes I wept. In a few versions, I threw things, plates, frames, truth like daggers. But the real moment came quietly. Too quietly. It was a Tuesday. Ordinary. Boring, even. The kind of day where the sun shone a little too perfectly, and the house smelled like fresh laundry. Noah had just gotten back from work and was humming under his breath some old song he liked from college. He dropped his keys into the bowl near the door and turned toward the kitchen, where I stood with the DNA envelope in one hand, Emma's journal in the other. He paused when he saw me. "Hey, babe. Everything okay?" I didn't speak. I simply laid the envelope on the counter between us, then placed the torn-out page from Emma's journal beside it, her neat handwriting like a curse written in soft curves. He frowned, picking them up, eyes scanning too quickly at first, then slowing down. Silence. Thick. Heavy. Unrelenting. The color drained from his face. "Noah," I said, my voice calm and cold, "you lied to me. Repeatedly. You slept with Emma, tried to bury it, and had the audacity to let me carry your shame while you played doting husband." He opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. "Don't. Just don't." He took a step forward. "I never meant to. You did. You chose to. And when she told you she thought the baby was yours, you panicked. So you stayed. You faked love. You touched my belly like it meant something." "It did mean something," he snapped, voice cracking. I thought maybe we could fix this. That if the baby was mine, maybe it would save us." I asked flatly. "Do you even hear how selfish that sounds?" The silence between us grew louder than anything he could have said. I turned to the envelope again, sliding it forward with trembling fingers. "The baby isn't yours." His eyes snapped to mine. "Liam Grayson," I whispered. "One night. Months before I ever knew you and Emma happened." I locked it away out of guilt, but the dates didn't lie. The test doesn't lie. He blinked hard, like I'd slapped him. "You cheated too," he muttered bitterly. "No," I said firmly. "I felt alone. You chose to betray me while smiling in my face." Noah backed away slowly, like the truth had burned him. "So what now?" he asked hoarsely. "You kick me out? After everything?" I looked at him, this man I once thought I'd grow old with, and felt nothing. "I don't need to kick you out, Noah," I said. "You left a long time ago. You just didn't tell me." And with that, I turned away. Not to punish. Not to prove anything. But because this time I chose me. And my child. The real beginning didn't start with betrayal. It started with truth. After Noah left, the house felt heavier for a while. Not empty, just still. Like a theater after the curtain falls, the echoes of drama still hanging in the air. There were no slamming doors, no final screaming match. Just his key left on the table, a single suitcase gone from the closet, and the absence of a man who had already been vanishing one silent inch at a time. And I breathed. For the first time in what felt like months, I sat in the nursery alone, no pretending, no performance, no waiting for the next lie. I touched my belly as the baby fluttered inside, strong and alive, and whispered softly, "It's just you and me now." I expected the loneliness to crush me. Instead, it felt clean. Like starting over. Emma didn't reach out. I suppose I expected that. Maybe her shame buried her, or maybe she was too much of a coward to face what she'd destroyed. Either way, her silence was the only apology I'd accept now, not because it made things right, but because it gave me room to heal without more lies. I filled the house with fresh air. I opened the windows, burned sage. I painted the nursery wall a soft sea glass green, choosing peace over perfection. I moved through each day slowly, deliberately, like a woman returning to her own rhythm. And then, a week after Noah left, a package arrived. No return address. No note on the outside. Just a simple padded envelope, postmarked Chicago. Inside was a flash drive and a folded card. I sat down, heart stuttering, and opened the card first. "I never wanted to complicate your life. I just wanted to honor the truth when it finally found its way back to you. Liam." My fingers hesitated over the flash drive for a long moment before I finally inserted it into my laptop. There was one file. A video. The screen flickered to life, showing Liam in his office, his sleeves rolled up, eyes tired but warm. Hey, I don't know if you'll ever even watch this. I debated whether to send it at all. But I figured if I were you, I'd want honesty, not silence. I didn't expect anything from that night in Chicago. Not forgiveness. Not a future. But I never forgot it either. If the child is mine, I want you to know I'll support whatever you decide. I won't fight. I won't push. I'll respect your boundaries, your pace. But I'll be here always if you want to talk. And if he or she ever needs a father, I'll be the kind they deserve. He smiled at the camera gently, sadly, and then the screen went black. I sat there for a long time afterward, tears slipping silently down my cheeks. Not from grief, but from something far more terrifying: hope. I never responded to Liam's video. Not at first. Some victories, I learned, don't come with fireworks or applause. They arrive silently like dawn, reshaping everything in their quiet glow. 2 months passed. My belly grew. My steps slowed. But my spirit? It steadied. I was no longer the woman who curled herself into the shape of someone else's comfort. I no longer needed validation in the form of Noah's promises or Emma's guilt. I found something stronger, me. When I finally reached out to Liam, it wasn't dramatic. I simply sent a photo. A sonogram image, captioned with one word. Ours. No expectations. No strings. Just truth, the way it always should have been. His reply came a few hours later, a simple, reverent message. Thank you for trusting me. I'm here. Whatever you need. And he was. Not with grand gestures or declarations, but steady presence. He checked in when appointments came. He sent children's books with notes tucked inside, funny, thoughtful, quiet reminders that I wasn't alone. But my true victory? It wasn't winning Liam's support. It was reclaiming myself. One quiet evening, I stood in the nursery, now fully finished, and looked around at the life I was about to welcome. A life unburdened by betrayal. A life shaped by truth, not secrets. I didn't need Emma's friendship anymore. That wound had scabbed over and faded. I didn't miss Noah's version of love. It had been too conditional, too self-serving. I had something better now. Peace. As I placed a tiny folded onesie into the drawer, I whispered to the baby, "You were never the mistake. You were the clarity I never saw coming." And, just like that, I realized. The real victory wasn't revenge. It was freedom. Freedom to love without lies. To begin again. To walk into motherhood not broken but whole.